Hello students, we were discussing about the chapter The Necklace, and we had seen that the main character Matilda Loisel, who was a pretty girl but was born in a poor family and always craved for all the luxuries of life, she was married to a clerk because she also belonged to a clerk family, and their family could not afford nice dowry that she could get married to a rich man. Even after marriage, she could not make peace with her poverty, and she was always embarrassed to see her house, especially the shabby walls and the worn out furniture. She always craved about eating nice delicacies and other luxuries of life. While, on the other hand, her husband was a satisfied fellow, and he even ate the pot pie with utmost delight. On one day, when the husband received an invitation from the Minister of Education about a ball party, instead of being very happy and being fortunate enough because they have been among a selected few, she again went into a state of despair because she thought she was not having a nice gown, a nice frock, and a nice jewelry piece to accentuate her beauty. So she suggested her husband to give away this invitation to somebody else who is a colleague and whose wife better suits that ball party. So we can see that how spiteful she is and how she reacts. She is very much self-obsessed about her poverty. Let us continue with what happens in the later part of the chapter and what happens whether they are able to go to the party or not. He was a very nice man. He was a good husband, and he suggested her that don't be irritated, don't be sad. It's better you buy a new dress. And he asked her that what would be the amount which would be suitable enough to buy a nice and decent dress. At this, Matilda suggested that around 400 francs would be enough to buy a decent dress. Now this also came upon as a setback for him because he has collected 400 francs to buy a gun to enjoy hunting during the summers, but owing to the love for the lady, and he sacrificed and he gave away all the 400 francs to her so that she can buy a nice dress. Earlier, he had planned to buy a gun and to use it for hunting parties with his friends uh, during the summer season. So finally, he has given away the money, and let us see what she has brought, and finally, she able to make for the party or not. What fresh problems now disturbs Madame Loisel? Once she gets the frock or the dress, now she is worried about a nice neck piece or a necklace which suits the occasion, and she is able to grab the attention of all the people. Now, how is this problem solved? Let us see. The first problem has been solved by the husband. The day of the ball approached, and Madame Loisel seemed sad. Again, she is still sad. The day is approaching near, and she is very disturbed, very anxious. Nevertheless, her dress was nearly ready, and it was good enough. Her husband said to her one evening, "What is the matter with you? You have acted strangely for 2 or 3 days. What is that problem that is still disturbing you still, even after buying a nice dress?" And she replied, "I am vexed not to have a jewel, nothing to adorn myself with. I shall have such a poverty-stricken look. I would prefer not to go to this party." Again, the thought of not going to the party is is overpowering her, and she's saying that without a jewelry piece, she would it would feel as though she is a poor lady, and so she would not go there to exhibit her poverty. And she again denied to go to the party. He replied, "You can wear some natural flowers in this season. They look very chic." So yes, no doubt, a very chic look is given if you wear some nice flowers, and this would also look beautiful. Already the girl is quite beautiful, and this would be good enough. So a nice suggestion is given, but she is not at all convinced, because flowers would again mean poverty and natural flowers, and so she wanted some jewelry which was expensive and some which was nice. She was not convinced so. And she replied, she denied this kind of a suggestion. There is nothing more humiliating than to have a shabby air in the midst of rich women. So here she is feeling that it would be very humiliating when the other ladies would be wearing very nice jewelry and I would be wearing just flowers. So that would look even more humiliating and I would be embarrassed. Then her husband cried out, "How stupid we are! Go and find your friend Ma'am Forestier and ask her to lend you her jewels. You have a nice friend and she is rich enough. She may be having some nice jewelry pieces and you can borrow at least one. At least for a day, this could be easy for us." She uttered a cry of joy. This was a very nice suggestion and she liked it very much. It is true. I had not thought of that. This idea didn't come to her mind. The next day, she took herself to her friend's house and related her story of distress. That what is the problem she is stuck in and what she requires. She goes to Madame Forestier and she shared this. Madame Forestier went to her closet, that is a cupboard, and she, just to help her, took out a large jewelry box or case, brought it, opened it, and said, "Choose, my dear. You can choose any." She saw at first some bracelets, then a collar of pearls, again some pearl necklace, then a Venetian cross of gold. Cross, as you know, the cross is worn by the Christian people. So a Venetian cross of gold and jewels of admirable workmanship. So the craftsmanship of these jewelry were nice and admirable. So she is just looking through and admiring and trying to find the best one which suits her and her dress and the party very well. She tried the jewels just before the glass, hesitated, but could neither decide to take them nor leave them. Now she was confused, which one to take and which one to leave. Then she asked, "Have you nothing more? Still, if it is there something nice which where there is no confusion and you are very sure about that it is the perfect one?" Then Ma'am Forestier replied, "Why, yes, look for yourself. I do not know what will please you." Suddenly she discovered in a black satin box. So in another box, satin box, a superb necklace of diamonds was there. So a nice diamond necklace was there and her hands trembled as she took it out. And it was so nice, so appealing that she was just trembling with surprise, with happiness, and she just got what she wanted. So she is utterly happy. She placed it about her throat against her dress, and she tried that whether it suits her in the neck and with her dress also, and was ecstatic. It was wonderful. Then she asked in a hesitating voice, full of anxiety, "Could you lend me this? Only this?" And she was hesitant. She thought it was extremely precious, and so with hesitation she asked whether she can have this one. because she is completely satisfied with this one, and it was a very nice one. Could you lend me this? And yes, the reply came, certainly, I'm ready and you can take it. So now finally both the problems have been sorted out. A nice dress was bought by her, and a nice neck piece was borrowed from Madame Forestier, who was a nice friend of hers. She fell upon the neck of her friend, embraced her with passion, just thanked and filled with a lot of gratitude, and then went away with her treasure. The day of the ball arrived. The party day, Madame Loisel was a great success. Everybody was looking at her beauty, and people could not take their eyes off her. She was looking so pretty. She was the prettiest of all, so elegant, so gracious, smiling, and full of joy. So that was the time of her lifetime. All she wanted throughout the years have been fulfilled on this day. All the men noticed her because she was looking so beautiful, asked her name, and wanted to be presented. And they introduced themselves to her. She danced with enthusiasm, and she danced there nicely with a lot of enthusiasm. She was very happy and she was intoxicated with pleasure. She was filled with, addicted with pleasure here, thinking of nothing but all this admiration. And she was just filled with a lot of pleasure and self admiration. This victory so complete and sweet to her heart. And she found that this victory is a complete victory, a wholesome victory, and it is very dear to her. She always craved for this. She went home towards 4 o'clock in the morning. They enjoyed complete night, and around morning time, dawn time at 4 o'clock in the morning, her husband had been half asleep in one of the little salons since midnight. She was enjoying with all the other people, and the husband was just asleep, and he was taking some rest in the salons provided there since midnight with three other gentlemen whose wives were enjoying themselves very much. So the ladies were all engrossed in the party, and men were uh, taking some rest in the salon, in the lounge. He threw around her shoulders the modest wraps they had carried, because it is now cold and now she needs to wrap herself with some woolen. So here a modest wrap was covered, and then had carried, whose poverty clashed with the elegance of the ball costume. Now this wrap, the woolen wrap, was not matching the nice elegant dress and the neck piece, but still, because it was cold, she wrapped herself. She wished to hurry away, and now she did not want anybody to notice her in this wrap, which is very modest and which could show her poverty. Yeah, so they are just hurrying away to their home in order not to be noticed by other women who were wrapping themselves in rich furs. Obviously, the other ladies were wrapping themselves in nice furs. Loisel detained her. Wait, said he. I'm going to call a cab. He said that I am calling a cab and just wait for a moment. But she would not listen and descended the steps rapidly. But now, after being wrapped in a very decent wrap, she cannot wait there. So she rushed hurriedly away from this place. When they were in the street, they found no carriage. So there was no carriage, or no, so they could not find, and they began to seek for one. They're just trying to find, and in this way they have to walk for some time, and they are waiting for something. They are trying to find one carriage, hailing the coachman, and they are calling out the coachman whom they saw at a distance. So in this way they are trying to find a carriage to go home. They walked along towards the river, hopeless and shivering. And it was very, very cold, hopelessly cold, and they were shivering. Finally, they found one of those old carriages that one sees in Paris after nightfall. Now they could only find an old carriage finally, and it has been written that this kind of carriage is found especially during the night, these old ones. It took them as far as their door, and they went wearily up to their apartment. And finally, this carriage has helped them reach their home, and very tiredly they reached the apartment. It was all over for her. The day has ended for her, and on his part, he remembered that he would have to be at the office by 10 o'clock. The husband, now after reaching home, is worried that he has to get up early and he has to reach the office by 10. So he was busy with this thought. She removed the wraps from her shoulders. The shawl or the woolen wrapping was removed before the glass, before the mirror, for a final view of herself in her glory. She was trying to admire for one last time, but unfortunately she uttered a loud cry. Her necklace was not round her neck, and you know that this was a borrowed one and maybe a very costlier one. So all her dreams suddenly shattered when she found that the neck piece was not around her neck. What do Mr. and Madame Loisel do next? How do they replace the necklace? That we will see in the later part of the chapter. Loisel, already half undressed, asked, "What is the matter?" Now the husband asked, "What is the matter? What happened?" She turned towards him excitedly. I no longer have Ma'am Forestrier's necklace." He rose in dismay. He is completely disappointed and annoyed and frustrated. What? How is that? It is not possible, because then they could come in trouble. And they looked in the folds of the dress. Sometimes it happens that the jewelry stucks in your hair, in your dress, etc., etc. And they looked in the folds of the dress, in the folds of the cloak, the long coat, in the pockets, everywhere. But they could not find it. He asked, "You're sure you still had it when we left the minister's house?" Now, whenever you lose something, then you happen to figure out where the thing has been lost. So he's trying to make it sure that when they left the minister's house, it was there, so that now the search could be focused to the way through which they had come back and the carriage, etc. So he is trying to inquire about and try to find a clue where they can find it. Yes, I felt it as we came out. And she's saying that yes, I could feel it. But if you had lost it in the street, we should have heard it fall. Now, but the question is, another doubt came up, that if that had been there in your neck, then the sound of falling down could have been heard. It must be in the cab. Maybe the necklace was left in the cab and it had fallen in the cab. Yes, it is possible. Did you take the number of that cab? Now, who takes otherwise? We are not always sure about, and we are not always losing something to take the number. So he did not take the number of this cab. No. And you, did you notice what it was? No. Even she did not notice the number. They looked at each other, utterly cast down. So they are really very sad, in a state of despair, and it was the negligence on the part of both. Finally, Loisel dressed himself again. The man has to go and find it, because they are not in a state where they have enough money to again make it and compensate it. I'm going, he said, over the track where we went on foot to see if I can find it. So he is again going there to find on track whether when they were walking on foot there it has fallen or some other place. He'll go and again he would try to trace it. And he went. She remained in her evening gown, not having the force to go to bed. She is also stuck here. She is so sad. She is in a state of shock. She is not undressing. Towards 7 o'clock, her husband returned. And finally, the husband returned after finding, and he had found nothing. The neck piece was not found at all. He went to the police station also and to the cab office also, if they could locate that in that cab they have found, and put an advertisement in the newspapers also, even offering a reward, but nothing could happen. And there was the necklace couldn't be found. They are really unfortunate about this. She waited all day in a state of bewilderment and confusion, and she was completely confused about where it would have been fallen and before this frightful disaster. So she's just confused, thinking about it, stuck about this, the thoughts where the necklace had might have fallen. He had not discovered nothing. But what is the problem? That though this was a frightful disaster for them, they are all confused and bewildered. Loisel returned in the evening, but his face is completely pale. He was not able to find the necklace. He had discovered nothing. So it was really a setback for both of them. He said, write to your friend that you have broken the clasp of the necklace. You know, the clasp where you join the necklace, that clasp has been broken, and you would just repair and give it back so that you get enough time to find it, and that you will have it repaired, and you will repair it and you will give it back. That will give us some time, and we will have time to find out. She wrote as he dictated, and she did it as was said. At the end of a week, they had lost all hope. But it was 7 days since they kept on trying to find it. But finally, after the end of the week, all the hope was lost. And Loisel, older by 5 years, declared, "We must replace this jewel." And now intention, it is written that he was older by 5 years. Intention, you seem to be so sad. So declared that we must replace this jewelry. So the jewelry needs to be replaced. Now nothing can happen. We now have no hope to find the jewelry back. Now this was all the problem. The jewelry has been lost. It has been a week since they have found, and they have already lost hope now. Now they have to replace the jewelry. They have to find another piece, but of the same kind. Let us see if they are able to find a similar kind of neck piece, and are they able to and even the lady should not be able to find out whether it is the other one or the same one. So try to understand this part of the chapter, and we will discuss the next part in the next section.